Exposed. The 2,000-year-old truth behind the life-changing struggles of temple women in Mesopotamia. The rain poured down in sheets that night, washing over the small Indiana town like a curtain of despair. Inside the local diner, Sarah Miller wiped the counter with a cloth that had seen better days. She was just a single mother trying to make ends meet, but there was something undeniably powerful about her spirit. Her 7-year-old daughter, Lily, waited by the door, staring out into the rain, dreaming of becoming a doctor. "I will help everyone, Mommy," she declared, her bright eyes filled with possibility. And yet, the weight Sarah felt was unshakable, a burden of poverty and judgment that pressed down harder with every passing day as she tidied an old storage closet. Her fingers brushed against something cool and dusty. She pulled out a stack of ancient texts. The pages were yellowed, but the words leapt out at her, a chronicle of Mesopotamian temple women. Those brave spiritual figures trapped in roles defined by society's cruel prejudices. Shock coursed through Sarah like lightning. The stories of these women, once revered, now shadowed by stigma, mirrored her own struggles. The gossip of neighbors whispered behind her back, the whispers driven by a society that all too often judged the imperfect. Her emotions surged. She felt that flicker of awakening inside of her, igniting a deep-seated passion for advocacy. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But this new passion strained her already fragile family ties. When her estranged father, a Vietnam veteran burdened with his own demons, returned unexpectedly, their reunion sent shockwaves through her life. "Forget history," he barked, eyes wild with frustration. "Focus on what's really important." The clash of their worlds, her battle for recognition and his refusal to confront the past, opened wounds that felt too deep to heal. As hope surged when Sarah planned a community awareness event. Disaster struck. Malicious gossip spread like wildfire, tarnishing her reputation. Whispers echoed in diners and around town. Standing amid the judgmental glances, her heart raced. She realized that she was facing the very prejudice those ancient women endured. How could they not see me? She wondered as the weight of it all threatened to crush her spirit. Just as she prepared to speak at the event, anxiety gripped her. The whispers reached a fever pitch, and she felt like she was standing alone on the battlefield, fighting for her dignity. Then, Lily's innocent voice echoed in her mind. "Mommy, why don't people just understand each other?" That question illuminated something inside Sarah, sparking an urgency she hadn't felt before. She had to fight, not just for herself but for every woman like her, every soul struggling for recognition in a world that too often forgot them. With emotions crashing against her like waves, she held her heart steady. The moment arrived. The audience quieted as she stepped up to the podium. Would she find the strength to confront the very people she'd grown up with, exposing the parallels between their lives and the age-old plights of the temple women? Or would the echoes of the past drown her voice before it ever had the chance to break through? As Sarah stood at the podium, her palms grew slick with sweat. The room was packed. Friends, neighbors, people she knew since childhood, each face a reminder of her isolation. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding fiercely like a drum, urging her forward. Lily's face floated in her mind, her smile a lifebuoy amid the sea of tension. "I want to talk about something that affects all of us," Sarah began, her voice shaking yet resolute. "The struggles of women, my struggles, are not just historical. They are happening right now, here in our town." She could see the disbelief washing over a few faces, but she pressed on, feeling the power of her words take root deep within her. "I found these ancient texts about the temple women of Mesopotamia," she continued, her voice gaining volume, "women who were once revered, yet became outcasts because of societal judgment. They were silenced just as I feel silenced today. The murmurs of discomfort that rippled through the audience fueled her passion. She felt the warmth of the light above her and imagined it enveloping her in strength. Imagine what they endured. The shame, the isolation, it mirrors what we face now. I am here because I refuse to be a bystander in my own life. Families shifted uncomfortably. At that moment, Sarah locked eyes with her father in the back of the room. His expression was unreadable. People think they know our stories, she said, her voice low but fierce. They don't see the truth. I stand here as a single mother, and I struggle every day to provide not just for myself, but for my daughter. We deserve to be heard. The crowd was still, yet tension simmered beneath the surface. For every nod of agreement, there was a scowl from someone who found her outspokenness threatening. Why is it so hard for us to understand one another? She asked, her gaze sweeping the room. Why do we burden each other with judgment instead of lifting each other up? Do we want the next generation to grow up in a world full of gossip and shame? Or do we want a community where understanding and compassion thrive? Then, as if summoned by the weight of her words, a small voice piped up from the back. "Mommy!" Lily called out, her innocence piercing the air. Sarah turned, her heart swelling. Her daughter stood there, arms crossed, defiance in those sparkling eyes. "I told you to help everyone. Why aren't you helping them?" Sarah's heart clenched. It was the question she needed answered. The very air around her crackled as she grasped the power of Lily's words. If she couldn't stand firm now, what would this do to her daughter's hopes and dreams? In that moment, Sarah felt a shift within herself. It wasn't just her fight anymore. It was a shared struggle, an echo of everyday battles fought in silence. "You're right, Lily," she finally said, the raw emotion breaking through. "This is the start of something. We can help each other if we only choose to listen." The tension began to crack, yet it was still incomplete. Some remained unnerved, others were shifting in their seats. As they processed her words, Sarah knew that she had opened a door, but the world outside was still shrouded in doubt. Then, a familiar voice broke into her thoughts. "You don't really believe that you can change things, do you?" It was Brenda, a longtime rival, arms crossed defiantly and brow furrowed. The challenge hung heavy in the air, a gauntlet thrown that demanded an answer. Sarah's breath caught, heart racing. Was this where it all ended? With a stranger shattering her dream? Or was there a way forward, amid the judgment and doubt? As she stood at the crossroads, caught between disbelief and an aching possibility, she felt a fire building within her. "I'm just getting started," she declared, the fierceness echoing against the walls. Together they would find a way. What awaited her next would be the ultimate test of fear and hope. Would she rise to the challenge, or would the tide of doubt sweep her away? Sarah felt the collective breath of the room held tight. The room pulsed with a mix of tension and anticipation, as everyone awaited Brenda's response. The corners of Brenda's mouth turned up in a mocking smile, and Sarah could feel the weight of the room shift, sides taken with silent nods and whispers. Just then, Sarah caught a glimpse of Lily, still standing there, an island of unwavering support amidst the swirling doubt. Her daughter's innocent confidence felt like a shield, guarding her against the skepticism that loomed large. Steeling herself, Sarah searched for the right words. "I don't expect everyone to agree with me, but I believe in change even when it feels impossible," she said, her voice firm and clear. "If we don't try, we'll be stuck in our own shadows, trapped by the very judgments we place on each other." Brenda stepped forward, arms crossed tightly, as if to physically block Sarah's progression. "Change? This town? It doesn't work like that. People want to listen to you. They don't care about your struggles. They care about maintaining the status quo." The truth of Brenda's words stung. Sarah felt the weight pulling her down, the familiar niggling voice inside her head whispering she was right. But something inside her pushed back. Perhaps she had underestimated the power of this moment. She imagined a community where women lifted each other, where they fought for their voices instead of silencing them. "Why not start here?" Sarah offered, her heart pounding, each beat magnified by the silence that enveloped them. "Why not take this chance to listen, to understand, to grow?" You all know what we face, yet here we are, staying quiet because it's easier. Brenda scoffed. We're not here to hold hands and sing kumbaya. This is reality. Your detail about the temple women? It's ancient history, Sarah. It doesn't apply here. With a quick glance at Lily, who stood wide-eyed and earnest, Sarah felt that parental instinct kick in, that drive to create a better world not just for herself, but for her little girl. But it does apply. Those women had stories that echo in our own lives. They struggled, they fought, and yes, many of them were silenced, but look at where we are today. We have to break that cycle. As she spoke, something shifted in the room. Heads began to nod. A few people began whispering to each other, their expressions changing from skepticism to curiosity. Sarah seized that opportunity, taking a bold step forward. What would happen if we started sharing our own stories? She asked, her voice now stronger, filled with hope. Imagine a place where we can be honest about our fears, our struggles, and the strength we find in one another. We can choose vulnerability and openness instead of judgment. There was a stirring in the crowd, a ripple of courage sparked by her words. For the first time since stepping onto the podium, Sarah felt the tide begin to turn. Maybe you're right, Brenda, she said, a soft smile breaking through. But maybe, just maybe, it's time for a little disruption. Do we really want our children growing up in a world where they are taught to stifle their voices, too afraid to speak? Mommy Lily's voice chimed in again, resonating through the crowd. You can change things. I know you can. The warmth that flooded Sarah's chest was overwhelming. It was a reminder that the fight wasn't hers alone. It belonged to many. A battle line was being drawn not just between her and Brenda, but between apathy and change. There, at the podium, Sarah breathed deeply, sensing that something monumental was unfolding. This was no longer just a speech. It had the potential to be a movement, an awakening. But would they embrace it? As doubt still hung in the air, and as the path ahead remained uncertain, Sarah realized that the next steps she took could change everything. Would they stand with her against the tide of fear and judgment? Because if they did, they would start carving a new story into their community, one filled with hope and resilience. With a heavy heart, Sarah faced the crowd, knowing the outcome could either break or elevate her. Who here is willing to take this journey with me? The answer hung just out of reach, pulsing with potential. What would they choose? A moment passed, silence thick as molasses, clinging to every heart in the room. Sarah's palms were damp against the podium, her breath quickened. She searched the audience faces, eager for a hint of what lay ahead. And then it happened. I'm with you, came a voice from the middle of the crowd. It was Karen, a woman known for her no-nonsense demeanor and a fierce protective nature when it came to her family. She stood taller, her chin lifted defiantly. We all are. Those 4 words felt like a spark in dry tinder. The murmurs ignited, rippling through the crowd. One by one, others began to rise. The realization that they were not alone washed over them. Sarah felt the momentum swell, inviting more voices to join the chorus. I want to share, another said, an older woman with silver-streaked hair that framed her face beautifully. I have lived quietly with my struggles far too long. I've seen what silence does. It chains us. Every nod, every supportive murmur breathed a new life into Sarah's speech. She could hardly contain the warmth spreading in her chest. Was this really happening? They were choosing courage over conformity. I've done nothing but keep my head down for years, chimed in a younger woman from the back. But I'm tired of it. I don't want my daughter to grow up in fear. Not anymore. The emotion in her voice was raw, drawing tears to Sarah's eyes. Let us not just talk. Brenda spat, her voice slicing through the growing buzz. Talk is cheap. What are you really going to do? She folded her arms, attempting to maintain her grip on the narrative. But the tide was turned far too quickly to control. Sarah's heart quickened, the challenge invigorating. Then let us get to work, Brenda. Let us organize. We can create support groups, workshops. If we make our stories known, if we open this up, then we can change hearts and minds. The room buzzed with energy. Eyes lit up with possibilities, Imaginations ran wild with ideas. The whispers grew into full conversations, each person enthusiastic about the way forward. Sarah saw it spreading like wildfire, hope igniting in a place where it had once felt scarce. Change doesn't wait for the perfect moment, she declared passionately, now emboldened. It waits for willing hearts. Together, we can rise above the whispers of judgment and apathy. As Sarah wrapped up her thoughts, she felt Lily's little hand slip into hers. It was small but fierce, holding on with determination. Sarah squeezed it, feeling her daughter's strength and belief radiate through her. Brenda's eyes narrowed, her loss of control clear. "You're going to regret this," she warned, her tone chillingly calm. "Maybe," Sarah replied, her voice unwavering. "But what I regret is trying. I refuse to let fear define our future. We owe it to ourselves and our children to live boldly." The applause grew, echoing off the walls, resonating inside each heart present. They were stirred, alight with newfound purpose, their collective weight beginning to shift. In that moment, it felt like a line was crossed, an undeniable shift in their futures. Sarah knew they were on the precipice of something huge. She could feel it, the energy, the unity, the raw power of stories. "Let us meet tomorrow night," Sarah proposed, anticipation bubbling in her chest. "Let us start this journey together. Who's in?" As hands shot up, Sarah's heart soared with hope. Yet underlining her excitement was a flicker of uncertainty. They were embarking on a path that promised to unravel long-held beliefs and challenge every norm. But deep down, she knew that for every ounce of fear, there lay strength, waiting to be unleashed. In that crowded room, amidst the stares of support and skepticism, she couldn't help but wonder, were they truly ready for the stories that awaited them? Ready to face the truths buried within? The weight of the moment loomed, and Sarah felt it all. Because now it was only the beginning. Would they rise to the occasion or shrink back into the shadows? The next evening, the air was thick with anticipation as Sarah arrived at the community center. She clutched Lily's hand tightly, feeling her pulse quicken with each tentative step towards the entrance. She took a moment to breathe, inhaling the faint smell of coffee and chatter filtering through the open doors. It was an invitation, a beacon of safety. Inside, the room buzzed with energy, an eager crowd connecting through the shared spark ignited the day before. Familiar faces filled the hall. Karen, the older woman, and many others who had stepped forward, stepping into a new reality. Everyone wore expressions of determination mixed with nervousness. "Wow," Lily whispered, her wide eyes soaking in the scene. "It's bigger than I thought." Sarah smiled down at her daughter, ruffling her hair. "That's because we're all here for each other. It's bigger than just us." Her heart warmed at the thought. They were about to start something transformative, but could she really sustain this fire? As Sarah walked to the front, she noticed Brenda already seated, her arms crossed. A shadow of tension clung to her, but Sarah wouldn't back down. She had to believe in the collective strength of this gathering. "Thanks for coming, everyone," Sarah began, her voice steady, yet carrying the weight of uncertainty. "Last night marked a shift. We're here because we want change. We want to shed our burdens and create a space where our voices matter." Cheers erupted in the crowd, their hearts beating as one. Then Sarah spotted a man at the back, a newcomer. He looked lost and a little out of place, but his eyes held a glimmer of hope. "Before we dive into our plans, I want to address everyone," Sarah continued. "Have we thought about the stories we each carry? Those sacred moments that shaped us?" She paused, scanning the faces in the audience. "What if we harnessed those stories to build bridges instead of walls? Our struggles are not unique. They are shared, connecting us all." The crowd murmured in agreement. Sarah felt a swell of energy akin to the rush of waves on a shore, and she pushed further. "I'd like everyone to take turns sharing just a snippet of their story. This is a safe space, we're family now. Let us strengthen those winds beneath our wings." One by one, hopeful souls began to share. The silver-haired woman spoke about her unfulfilled dreams, her words woven with resilience. The younger woman, the one who had spoken fiercely the night before, shared how her mother's silence shaped a lifetime of fear. As stories flowed, Sarah felt the weight of vulnerability wash over her. Their pain, their hopes, all the emotion filled the room and brought everyone closer. Laughter mingled with tears as shared experiences highlighted their common humanity. Then it was the newcomer's turn. He took a shaky breath, vulnerability radiating from him. I've always told myself to stay quiet, but I'm tired. Tired of pretending that things are fine when they're not. His voice cracked, and the room fell silent, captivated by his raw honesty. I want to change my life for my son, to show him strength and love. I need to step out of the shadows. Sarah felt her heart race. This was exactly why they were here, to support one another. She rushed forward to stand beside him, feeling the warmth radiate from the people around them. Thank you for sharing that, she said, her voice firm yet compassionate. You're not alone. We are all here to stand with you. Together we can lift each other up. As applause echoed throughout the hall, it was clear they were no longer just a random group of individuals. They were a community bonded by shared hopes and fears. But somewhere in that collective heartbeat, amidst the outpouring of humanity, a voice whispered in Sarah's mind, could they really sustain this momentum? Could they risk everything to confront deeper truths down the line? The uncertainty loomed yet again, hovering over them all. Was this just the beginning of healing? Or were they opening a door that would unleash more shadows than they were ready to face? The moment stretched, laden with emotion and unspoken questions. And in that charged silence, the group stood together, their hearts intertwined, each pulsing with the promise and threat of what was to come. What truths awaited them on the other side of this newfound unity? The following afternoon, the sun streamed through the community center windows, painting the space in warm hues of gold. The atmosphere was different, charged with something deeper, something fragile yet potent. Sarah could feel it in her bones as she arrived with Lily, tugging her backpack along. She noticed a few familiar faces, but many were new, each person carrying their own energy, their own burdens as they settled in. Sarah felt an undercurrent of trepidation ripple through the group. The excitement from the night before now sparkled with uncertainty. The energy in the room was electric, yet there was also a hesitation, an awareness that they had only scratched the surface of their shared experiences. Today, let us take it up a notch, Sarah suggested, stepping closer to the gathered crowd. Her voice rang through the hall, looking each person in the eye. Last night was powerful, but I think we need to dig deeper. Let us talk about what holds us back, what fears linger in the shadows. A murmur of agreement swept through the room, but Sarah caught Brenda's sideways glance. She was still clenched tight, arms crossed over her chest, as if she were bracing for a storm. Sarah wanted to reach out, to open a path, but the words hesitated on her tongue. Fear keeps us trapped, Sarah continued, trying to draw energy from the positive moments of the night before. But it can also be a catalyst for change. What if we shared our fears with each other? What if we laid them bare? People exchanged glances, their eyes reflecting concerns mixed with curiosity. A middle-aged man, his brow furrowed, raised his hand. What if we're not ready? He asked, a tremor in his voice. What if exposing our fears only pulls us apart? Sarah felt a tightening in her chest. What if it does? She countered softly. But what if it brings us closer? Healing begins when we confront what's hurting us. And I promise we can get through this together. She noticed Lily, who listened intently, her eyes wide, absorbing everything. In that moment, Sarah realized that the truth needed to rise to the surface, even the uncomfortable parts. One by one, people began to share. A young woman spoke of her habit of hiding from confrontation, afraid of judgment. An older man revealed his anxiety about losing his job. Each confession was like peeling back layers of skin, revealing raw, tender parts usually kept guarded. Sarah felt their collective heartbeat quickening, a shared pulse of courage surging through the crowd. Brenda finally stood, her expression defiant yet vulnerable. I'm scared to trust. I don't want to lose what little control I have left, she confessed, her voice shaking. Thank you for sharing that, Brenda, Sarah said, stepping closer to her. Trust isn't easy, But look around. We're here to support each other, to redefine what safety means. When the applause echoed softly, the room felt lighter. However, Sarah could hardly shake the tightening in her gut. They were unlocking pieces of their souls. But what if this was just the beginning of what they'd have to face? Amidst the shared vulnerability, a thought flickered like a flame in the back of her mind. What horrors might resurface from their shadows? And was the group truly ready to confront them together? Let us not stop here, Sarah urged, her voice unwavering. Let us keep digging, keep sharing. We've started a fire, and we need to throw a little more fuel on it. There was a loud cheer, but something shifted in the room. Sarah felt a chill creep up her spine as her heart raced. What if the deeper truths buried under their stories were more painful than she imagined? The air crackled with promise and unease. They were on the precipice. What awaited them as they plunged deeper into the labyrinth of their fears? The door had just cracked open, and the darkness behind it loomed larger than they could ever anticipate. The group buzzed with a mix of fear and exhilaration, the energy swirling like a storm about to unleash its fury. As Sarah scanned the room, she caught glimmers of anticipation in the eyes of those around her. But among them, Brenda's dark gaze felt like a heavy weight, burdensome and tethered to something long buried. Okay, let us dive a little deeper, Sarah prompted, her heart racing. Who else wants to share? A silence fell over the room, thick and palpable. Then a soft voice broke through. It was one of the new faces, a younger guy named Jake, his hands trembling slightly as they rested in his lap. I'll go, he said hesitantly. I've always felt like I'm just not enough, you know? Like I'm constantly chasing a shadow of who I'm supposed to be. His confession sent ripples through the group. Sarah felt their collective hearts beating faster. She noticed Brenda's lips tighten, but her eyes glimmered with unshed tears. Thanks for being honest, Jake, Sarah said gently, her own emotions swirling. That feeling can be so suffocating. You're not alone in this. Another voice joined in, this time from a woman named Mia, who had quietly observed the previous discussions. I can relate to that. I'm so afraid of failure, of disappointing everyone. It's like there's this constant pressure to be perfect. Nods of understanding traveled through the crowd. Sarah felt their narratives intertwining, like threads weaving into the fabric of their shared experience. The air thickened with unspoken fears laid bare, each revelation a stepping stone deeper into the shared landscape of their hearts. Perfection is a myth, Sarah said, reaching out to hold Mia's gaze. We're all here, exposed and true. That's actually where strength lies. The real beauty is in our flaws, in our raw honesty. Her words hung in the air, resonating like a haunting melody. Brenda finally broke her silence. But what about the things we've buried? The things we don't want to talk about? Her voice trembled, barely above a whisper, but it struck like a bell in the quiet room. The question hovered, weighty and daunting. No one spoke, but Sarah sensed the tension of unconfessed secrets pressing down like a storm cloud. Brenda's bravery hung in the air, electrifying everything around them. Those hidden truths, they have power over us, don't they? Sarah said, heart pounding. What we hide can carve away at us slowly. Exposing them might be scary, but it's the only way to reclaim our lives. In the silence that followed, Sarah felt her own heart race, each beat echoing the urgency of the moment. She wanted to reach deeper, but fear lurked like a shadow at the corners, kissing her resolve. The vulnerability in the room felt more sacred now. A fear I've carried for a long time, Brenda finally admitted, drawing everyone's focus back to her, is the fear of abandonment. I lost so much in my life. Every relationship feels so precarious. What if I can't trust anyone again? Sarah took a deep breath at Brenda's raw honesty. The atmosphere shifted, an invisible wall eroding between the parts of themselves they kept hidden. She realized, in that moment, they wouldn't just be sharing fears. They'd be dismantling the walls that kept them isolated. Brenda, I'm so glad you shared that, Sarah said softly. We can break these chains together. We don't have to face this alone anymore. And as the group started to murmur more fears and share deeper truths, it felt like they were standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into a chasm. The air grew thick with possibility, yet the weight of uncharted depths loomed, ready to reveal everything they had buried. While the warmth of connection wrapped around them, the shadows remained. The hidden truths waited, tempestuous and restless. They were just beginning to uncover the darkness that lay ahead. But what if, among those shadows, an even darker secret waited to be unearthed? Would their courage suffice to pull it into the light? The room felt electric, the air thick with unresolved emotions and the weight of shared secrets. Sarah watched as the group's energy transformed, each person reflected in the eyes of another. Vulnerability was spreading, fracturing the barriers they had erected. Breath by breath, wall by wall, they were dismantling their fears. As Brenda wiped a tear from her cheek, the moment felt pivotal. "I think I've held on to that fear for too long," she murmured, her gaze drifting to the floor. "It makes me question every relationship I try to build. Like, is it even worth it?" A ripple of murmurs swept through the room. Jake leaned forward, his brows knitting together in concern. "It is worth it," he urged. "I mean, maybe we just need to take the leap together? Sure, it's terrifying, but what's the alternative? Living in shadows?" His words hung in the air, igniting a flicker of hope in Sarah. The shift was subtle, but she could feel it, a budding courage mingling with the fear. They might not know all the answers yet, but together, they were creating a safe space where honesty could thrive. Mia nodded, encouragement brimming in her eyes. "Jake's right. It might be scary to step into those shadows, but that's where the light is. It's where we confront our fears." "Exactly," Brenda replied, her voice gaining strength. "What if by sharing we can actually support each other? I mean, really listen instead of hiding behind our fears?" With each passing moment, it felt like they were stepping onto a path that diverged from pain. No longer were they simply individuals, isolated in silence. Now they were companions on a shared journey. As if on cue, another voice broke through. It was Ethan, who had been quiet until now. "I lost my sister a few years back, and I've never talked about it. I've been angry at her for leaving, angry at myself for not being there. I thought maybe if I buried it, it wouldn't hurt so much." Gasps swept through the crowd. Sarah could see it reflected on so many faces, pained recognition. It was an unearthly burden to carry, and yet the moment felt profound. "Ethan, thank you for sharing that," Sarah said gently, her heart aching for him. "It's so important. Each of us has been navigating our own grief, our own scars. Maybe releasing them is a way to heal together?" "Yes," Ethan nodded, blinking back tears. "But it's hard to forgive, especially myself." The atmosphere shifted yet again. It was a mix of solidarity and sadness that wrapped around them, binding everyone closer together. Sarah's heart raced, a flurry of thoughts coursing through her mind. She felt the weight of their truths hanging in the air, and each moment took on a significance that felt almost tangible. Brenda leaned in, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Maybe facing those memories is the only way, like digging a hole to let the dark out so we can finally see the light. We've kept all this pain locked up, but we can choose to let it breathe." The words resonated within Sarah, sending a rush of courage down her spine. Each raw confession was a step closer to healing. They were athletes on the field of their own experiences, pushing past the boundaries of shame and fear, reaching for something rare: liberation. But even as they clasped hands and leaned toward the light, Sarah sensed an aftershock looming among them. The weight of their pasts was still there, echoing in the shadows. What if there's a truth waiting to be revealed? She wondered out loud. What if digging deeper only uncovers something darker? Her question floated, beckoning them closer to the precipice of their collective fears. Would they stand firm in the light, or would the revelations tear them apart? The haunting question hung above, waiting to ignite another wave of courage, or perhaps dread, in their hearts. A heavy silence fell over the room after Sarah's words, a silence thick with uncertainty. Brenda's fingers trembled slightly as she gripped her chair. The air felt charged, almost electric again, but this time with a tension that made everyone uneasy. Ethan looked down, biting his lip like he was trying to hold back a cascade of emotion. What if... he began, hesitating as his thoughts collided. What if the truth about my sister has nothing to do with me? His voice was barely above a whisper. What if... He swallowed hard, finding the courage to continue. What if it's something I can't bear? Mia reached out, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. Ethan, whatever you've been carrying doesn't have to be yours alone. We're all here. We can help you shoulder that weight. She offered him a kind smile, but it was tinged with concern. Jake nodded vigorously. Exactly. We can only heal if we face it together. He leaned back, reflecting on his own darkness. I lost a friend like that. I get it. I never really got closure either, and it eats at me every day. Brenda wiped her eyes again, squeezing her hands tight. What if we're all hiding from something? What if there's a whole world of pain just waiting for us to confront it? Are we ready for that? Her question hovered in the air, demanding an answer. They all shared uneasy glances, each of them wrestling with their thoughts. Let us not just talk about the shadows, Sarah suggested, her voice steady despite the unease. Let us pull them into the light. If we're going to do this, we need to be real. As they locked eyes, a sense of understanding enveloped them, each person feeling seen and vulnerable in their own way. Sarah could feel that stir of courage again, the determination to bring their darkest fears into clarity. Okay, Brenda finally exhaled, a newfound strength shining in her eyes. I'll go first. I've held on to this notion that losing my voice meant losing my power. But I realized that fear doesn't own me anymore. The group drew closer to her, forming a circle of support. As Brenda spoke, her voice grew steadier, spilling over with emotion. I want to break that cycle. It's exhausting to be bitter. I want to forgive myself for not being the person I thought I should be. Every word resonated deep within Sarah. It was a truth she recognized, rooted in her own struggles. Just like Brenda, she had carried the heavy weight of expectations, questioning her worth. But could they really unburden themselves as a group? If we each take a step forward, Jake chimed in, maybe we can lean into those fears together. No matter how dark it seems, it's better than staying stuck. Encouraged, Ethan wiped his eyes again, visibly trying to gather his thoughts. I want to talk about how angry I've been, but I don't even know where to start. Just start. You're not alone, Mia urged gently, and the light in her gaze made it easier for him, as if her warmth provided a safe harbor. As their eyes turned to him, Ethan felt their collective support bolster him. What awaited him in the recesses of his heart? Would he find peace or something more agonizing? Feeling a rush of hope, he took a deep breath. All right, I can try, but just as he opened his mouth to speak, the door creaked slightly, drawing everyone's attention. A figure stood in the threshold, casting a long shadow across their circle. Everyone froze, caught between vulnerability and the sudden intrusion. Should I just let myself in? The figure asked teasingly, but in their eyes was a whirlwind of uncertainty that matched the tension in the room. Sarah's heart raced. Who was this new arrival? What truth would they bring, or maybe what would they disrupt? The figure stepped into the room, revealing itself as Sarah's father, Jack. Instantly, energy shifted like a charged storm. Eyes darted nervously between him and Sarah, who felt her pulse quicken, both familiarity and unresolved tension hanging thick in the air. Jack's face held a mix of emotions, regret etched in the lines of his forehead, uncertainty swirling in his eyes like turbulent waters. Jack, Sarah exhaled, both surprised and apprehensive. What are you doing here? I was passing by and saw the lights, he said, almost sheepishly. I wasn't sure if I should come in. The words stumbled out, revealing the vulnerability hidden beneath his tough exterior. The atmosphere thickened even more as everyone held their breath, ready for the unfolding drama. Maybe this wasn't the best time, he continued, taking in the group assembled in a tight circle, every participant visibly curious. It is a good time, actually, Brenda said boldly, her resilience shining through the lingering discomfort surrounding Jack's presence. We're sharing our truths. You might as well join us. Jack's eyes widened. You want me to share? I've never been good at that sort of thing, he murmured, glancing at Sarah, who couldn't he help but feel the prick of old wounds. Maybe you can help us understand each other, Ethan offered cautiously, absorbing the sudden twist. It might be enlightening for all of us. Jack hesitated, feeling the weight of unsaid memories grasping at the edges of his consciousness. Finally, a flicker of determination sparked in his gaze. Fine, he said, stepping forward more assuredly. I'll try. As he settled into the circle, Sarah felt her heart pounding. Feelings long buried inside her began to bubble to the surface. She had always seen him as a pillar of strength, yet time and regret had eroded their relationship into fragments. Growing up, I didn't set the best example, did I? Jack began, his voice thick with emotion. I thought hiding my struggles made me invincible. But I've learned that silence only breeds pain. I regretted not being there when you needed me most, Sarah. The admission hung in the air, drawing eyes toward him, each person leaning in. Somewhere along the way, he continued, I lost sight of what fatherhood truly meant. I let my demons take over, blinding me to everything that mattered. Like Brenda, I had my fears, the fear of vulnerability, of admitting I was flawed. Sarah fought back tears. Could this really be happening? The words broke open a dam, unearthing emotions she had buried in anger and disappointment. You have to forgive me, Jack said, a tremor in his voice as deeper reveals echoed amongst the group. I want to change. Not just for you but for me. Change can be tough, Jake said tentatively, but together we can find a way forward. As more supportive voices surfaced, encouragement radiated, weaving a web of compassion throughout the circle. Tears brimmed in Sarah's eyes. I want to find a way too, she whispered, a mixture of fear and hope entwined in her words. But it's so hard to know where to start. Maybe we start with honesty, Brenda encouraged, her stance fortified by the presence of reluctant camaraderie. We're all here trying to lift the weight off our chests. Just step forward, one truth at a time. Jack exhaled deeply, feeling warmth spread through the circle. Can we forgive our past? Can we choose to take that leap together? At that moment, amid all the shared stories of loss and pain, a transformative shift rippled through the room. They realized that embracing vulnerability didn't mean surrendering. It meant gaining strength. Let us make a pact, Sarah finally said, her voice radiating warmth. We'll keep supporting each other through our fears. We'll remember that strength isn't in hiding. It's in standing together. Nods moved through the circle, integrating their shared journey. As Jack locked eyes with Sarah, something profound shook free within them. The doorways of understanding opened, a chasm crossed in that instant. Something beautiful emerged. What was once fragmented began to take form, binding each of them together in a fabric of shared humanity. They were all on this road, carving a new legacy not just for themselves but for the generations that would follow. With that, laughter mingled with tears, forging a powerful solidarity. In the quiet moments, they braced for whatever shadows lay ahead, heartbeats aligned, each pulse echoing a promise of trust, understanding, and courage. They wouldn't just rise. They would soar, taking their fates into their own hands, igniting a beacon of hope bright enough to burn through even the darkest nights ahead as they pieced their lives together. They learned to face the truth together, armed with stories of resilience and the willingness to embrace change. The story didn't end here. It was merging into something far greater, a community rising to meet its challenges, one heartbeat at a time. This was their moment, their transformation. As the room brightened, they understood. They were the catalyst for change, and their voices would resonate in harmony long after today. And now, dear friends, it's your moment too. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep our community growing. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, because we want to hear you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of acting now.